serving up something a little bit different today for Red Orb Menace. We're going to be doing some lore invasions. Lore invasions. Now, what do I mean when I say lore invader? Well, it's really another invader. It's just a character built around a certain concept or a singular purpose or theme. More specifically, I'm talking about a roleplay character, and I go into my invasions with a little bit of headcanon as well. We're going to be using Chaos Servant, and the area I'm going to be haunting is the old demon ruins of Izalith, henceforth known in Lothric as the Smoldering Lake. Now, the Chaos Covenant was interesting in Lordran. It was a following of neutral parties built around a central allegiance towards Kaelon, the Fair Lady, who was one of the sisters of Chaos, or daughters of Chaos, rather. And there was a bunch of characters that served her, like Aini, the court pyromancer, who served out of gratitude. And then we had fearsome invaders like Kirk, who served out of a warped sort of knight honor, or knight's honor. My Chaos Servant had a different backstory. My Chaos Servant attempted to use the First Flame to revitalize Kaelon and the other Daughters of Chaos, and steal it for Izalith. However, like so many Ashen ones, my Chaos Servant was not strong enough to, in fact, light the flame, and instead was resurrected with all the other Ash when Lothric and Lorien refused to light the flame a second time. So my presence in Lothric is simple. My Chaos Servant pursues other unkindled that have been awakened, and attempts to steal from them their embers that they use to fan their own flames, in the hopes that maybe if I acquire enough of them, Kaelon, the Fair Lady, will rise again. We've invaded a host named, I think Fuzzy Donuts was his name, and he's got a couple of similarly named phantoms. And the first Chaos pyromancy we're going to be utilizing is going to be Chaos Storm, which is a very particular pyromancy. I don't really use the Storm variants too often in my adventures in any of the Dark Souls games, really, with the exception of maybe a little bit in Dark Souls 2. I liked it a little bit in that one. But it's sort of a strange spell to use. It's very situational. And if Smoldering Lake invasions are anything, they're very situational. Now, there's not a whole lot to style to this character. I use a Chaos-infused Claymore and a Chaos-infused Dagger with a simple infused round Iron Shield, since we're going to spend a lot of time going back and forth through the area. And it is a long area, mind you, Smoldering Lake, so this is the sort of place where a simple infused pairing tool or secondary tool is a great idea. I also have a pair of Cesti on me for pocket poise. They are infused dark, since I didn't have enough Chaos Gems for some reason, and then I ended up keeping them dark because, you know, defenses on players are not so great from dark. But I am meaning to infuse that one to Chaos once I acquire another gem, just to round out the build. Now, these guys are kind of holed up in this little top spot. Not a lot of people feel like rushing down to deal with the rat demons or the Grus. My character, as you can see, as a lore invader, uses the Untrue Dark Ring almost all the time, unless I'm trying to signal another invader. And because I am a lore invader, I'm not necessarily as concerned about, you know, being aggressive or being pro or all the usual invader tropes that you typically see in the game, especially nowadays. I still enjoy making the character and making this the game for me. So I will fight the host, I will fight his party, but I have no problem taking my time. Now, I see an opportunity to use Chaos Storm finally, and I managed to hit the other Pyromancer. But I'll tell you, even though I went all in on that Pyromancer, that mage, I am not respecting that mage. And let me tell you something, any party that's got a sorcerer on deck, you need to be careful, because especially at this level too, and you'll see, I'm sure, other examples in the video. I don't know if there's other sorcerers to be. Yeah, there are. But yes, sorcerers, they demand respect. And yes, they're annoying, but don't turn your back on them. Because I could have very easily bought the farm there, because I was not respecting that guy. Now fortunately, I've turned the tables. The host ambled back to the bonfire. So for the host, this is a risk-free duel. If they die, they're right here. Their souls are right here. I have to assume these guys were nervous to progress with me in the level, because perhaps they, like a lot of players, they had probably just come in from the abandoned tomb area of Karthus instead of going for Wolnir, so it's entirely possible I just ended a saga right there. That happens. I'm going to interrupt the host invasions to show off a couple of blue spirit fights I had. I get a lot of blue fights in the Smoldering Lake. Now this area is such a unique area in terms of its size and its placement in the game, because it is an optional area. Now my character is level 50, so I get a wide range of players who are hosting and questing, and yes, sometimes ganking in this area. And because of that, a lot of blues, if those hosts have the Way of Blue active, will be pulled in. So I wanted to showcase a couple of fights. I have a character up right now that I'm fighting. I think his name is, what was it? Hero 2 Sorcerer. It's very frustrating when you've put a lot of effort into a lore character with a cool name and a cool story, and you invade people or their phantoms that have silly names or names that they didn't really put a whole lot of thought into. This is a good player I'm fighting. This blue, I'm not maybe respecting the blue enough, and I'm allowing them a certain hits. I walked into a few of the pyromancies earlier, you saw. But me and Hero go at it. We have a pretty cool duel. This was an otherwise unremarkable invasion, so I didn't include the clip simply because not long after this, I believe this was a host that disconnected on me. And Hero was very active while I did this session. Yeah, I actually see him again defending another host, and I'll show that clip in a little bit. But I wanted to show this one because I enjoyed my fight with Hero. We wailed on each other. He or she fought bravely. But at the end, I managed to pull a victory, not out of any real skill on my part. I did make a lot of mistakes there, but I consider that a good blue. Now this is another example of a blue fight. I love when a blue runs up to me and goes in for that instant parry. It never gets old. This is Too Happy. Now Too Happy is one of those types of players that has one move. They've got one trick that they know they could use in PvP, and maybe it's worked once or twice before. But what Too Happy is going to do is quick step around me with a dagger and just spam that one button. Now I have an answer for it, of course. I break out my my cesti, and I use the weapon art with the cestus. And pretty quick I realize Too Happy's not about this fight, especially not alone. And this is another one of those unremarkable recordings I had, where I think the host died later while I was hunting the questing party. So one good blue, one bad blue. That's how it goes. Back to the invasions. Arasu, or Arasu. Now when I come into this spot and I see all the grooves have been dispatched, it's usually a little bit disheartening. I also notice the rat demons at the bottom are also killed. So these guys have already got a little bit of progress. And Arasu has a white phantom, and he has a Hero 2 Sorcerer who has been resummoned and is defending his host. Now I'm using the Seething Chaos in this invasion, which are little time bombs. I had to get these at level 50 with a Chaos build from the Demon Prince. Not so easy. Now you just saw back there that bomb I laid down detonated and kind of soaked up everyone in the party somewhat, so that was kind of cool. It's a very again, another situational spell, but I find it's very good for breaking up parties. Now, Hero is also himself a pocket pyromancer and is using my own chaos magic against me, and that range, I just was not respecting it. Now, this is a situation where I've already fought in Hero. I know Hero is a decent enough blue where he can give me some trouble, and both the host and his phantom, I think his name was Fio, are using the breakdance greatsword, which one-on-one I can deal with no problem. But two people using it with a spellcaster, not so great. The odds aren't so great. Now the Black Knight is interesting because the Black Knight can hit everybody. And I turned my back for a second and me and the host both receive a beatdown with the golf swing. Only, I don't know if you noticed what happened there. We both went up in the air, and I'll slow it down so you can see. I landed, the host landed someplace a little bit lower, namely into the lava. So that was kind of a cool way. I think I would have lost that one if not for the Black Knight. We've got a new host on this one named Cinder, and again I'm using the Seething Chaos. Sometimes it's a good spell to use just to get people out of your face if you have a questionable spawn. The Gold Phantom is Old Prospector. You'll also notice I'm using the Floating Chaos spell you get from Livid Pyromancer Dunnel, which is a great pyromancy for applying pressure to a party or even a lone player. I learned very quickly that Cinder has a bit of a lag situation, and in a few moments I do get a notification that a blue phantom is entered. But at this point, I'm not sure what's going on. I'm thinking I'm dealing with the Walmart Wi-Fi, and I'm kind of backing off because I'm not too sure when it's gonna spike again. And sure enough, it happens again in a moment, and I'm gonna show you. So I'm throwing bombs because I feel like it's a safer option until I know I'm gonna hit something, and then there it is. This is the kind of stuff that's just scary when you don't know what's happening, you don't know how much damage you're about to receive. So I rolled out of there, I healed, and again, the Black Knight will attack everybody. The Black Knight is crazy. The Black Knight doesn't care. So the Black Knight is about as dangerous to me as anything, especially if these two want to back off, and it's sort of what they do. So I use an Alluring Skull to sort of break concentration with the Black Knight. They don't last too long, and I usually have them for the NPCs, Sorig and Cuculus. But the Black Knight breaks off his aggro from me, and that's when I get to notice that a blue spirit has entered the fray. So I have the ladder. Now the ladder here is a great choke point. It may be the single best choke point of the entire map. Everyone who's in Smoldering Lake wants to come up here. They want to turn off that ballista. They hate the ballista. So I have a little bit of control right now over this questing party and their blue ally, and I really just have to hold up and wait for them to arrive. And what happens next has to be done very carefully. I have a lot of examples of it not going correctly. You never want anyone to get to the top. So using my daggers and a combination of pyromancies, I'm going to knock everyone off the ladder, back up so I don't walk myself off the cliff throwing, toss a Seething Chaos down to the bottom, hopefully to knock someone off the ledge. The whole time, I've got to make sure none of these guys make it to the top, because if that happens, I'm no longer ahead. I'm wedged in the middle of a potential plunge and a party of swords and knives waiting for me in the bottom. So I throw one of the Seething Chaos, and something else about the Seething Chaos is a lot of players don't really see it too often. I don't think, especially at this level. And Cinder maybe didn't notice one had been tossed next to him, or he didn't notice it was a Seething Chaos fireball, and the resulting explosion knocked him off his pedestal, and I was able to end this invasion right here at the ladder. Now the last invasion is against Fort Tuana, and it's the longer of all the other invasions, mainly because Fort Tuana ran the gamut of this level. This was a character that used seeds, had NPC phantoms, Cuck and Soreg, and in a few more moments I'll have a blue spirit come in. I was kind of salty that Guru actually swiped me. Now I think I'm safe in here for the rest of the seed to wear off, but the sword and spear, I'm sorry, spear and shield group found me, and I dispatched with this one quick, although not quite as fast. I actually almost died to this enemy, just thinking about my inventory swap. So rather than waste more items than I needed to, well, I probably should have just used the blessing if I was going to use it. It would have cured my blight. I'm not too sure why I did that. But as you can see, the seed wore off. So I continue, and look, another seed has popped up, and I can see by the blobs that Fort Tuana has been through this hallway. So I wait for the seed to wear off, and during that time, while I'm waiting, another blue, or a blue, rather, has shown up. Pink with too many K's, I think was what I wrote there. Now at this point, 2 seeds have been used on me. I haven't seen the host. I haven't seen that he's got 2 NPC phantoms, and a lot of the enemies and major choke points from this part of the map have either been bypassed or cleared, and I don't know if I've got a 3rd seed coming. So fortunately for me, I meander about long enough that the blue spirit shows up around the corner just in time for me to appear unnoticed, and I've got the slumbering dragon crest ring, so he doesn't hear me. Unfortunately for the blue spirit, my surprise attack results in a plunge, and I managed to defeat them with 2 strokes. I didn't know if you noticed back there, but it seemed like Fort Tuana opened one of the invisible walls for the Titanite, but not the other ones. So this player is actually quite clever, I realize. And now I've got a situation where it's Soreg and the host, and I finally make my presence revealed. And I was talking about it before, but the Alluring Skulls do a marvelous piece of work to the NPCs, and because this area has 2 of them, and they are typically used to escort hosts across the level. You can see here, while I'm dealing with Soreg, Fort Tuana is making tracks. So I seize the opportunity to deal with Soreg. I usually wouldn't have maybe wasted the effort on one of the NPCs, but because the host is playing a cat and mouse game quite well, I might add, I use the distance between them to deal with Soreg real quick. What happens if a host gets too far from Soreg or Calculus? They can very easily get stuck in the level, or run into a wall, or simply just stand still. And not a lot of people realize that happened, so he probably didn't realize he had sacrificed Soreg right there. But this level's like the Wild West, folks. You know, it's a big area. So many players can come in at different parts of their adventure. Now I see when I come up here, he's already dealt with the ballista. Now normally when I get up here behind a host or questing party and they've dealt with the ballista, that means they've already made the trek downstairs, which means they're probably going to beeline it towards the boss, or go for the Horus cave, where Horus the Hushed is waiting. Now I see that the host is hightailing it, so I'm expecting a fog wall run, but instead Fort Tuana, who must have just made the full circuit of Smoldering Lake, decides they want to replenish before the boss fight, and they meet me in the bonfire room for one last duel. And I could tell also that maybe they were ready for it to be over at this point. Now they bow, I don't bow. At this point I had run through the level, and I had cut it down significantly, by the way, from the footage. Fort Tuana is a mage, apparently. I didn't realize that until literally this room. And they go for a turn and burn at the quarter, which I parry. It's my one parry, I think, in the whole video. But fight's over. When I got my ember, more embers for the fair lady, who is dead. but maybe she'll live again. Who knows? We'll see. So the build, I'll be putting the builds at the end of the videos henceforth, going forward, due to feedback I've received. Now, Chaos Servant, as I said, is level 50 at +5 reinforcement. And you can see here the stats aren't very remarkable. I have a minimum of faith and intelligence for the infusions and the spells. Most of it's in vigor. 50 is one of the weirder levels to spec for. And while I have other weapons on standby, I predominantly use what you see there. The Cestus, the Claymore, the other weapons, the Shield, the Pyromancy Hand. And her inventory for her fashion is specifically non-specific, if that's a way to describe something. I didn't want to have a Pyromancer garb or a Conjurator set. I like the idea of her clothes being somewhat decayed and decrepit, so I picked the infantry top from Lothric. Very generic. You could also see Grey Rat wears it too. I've got one utility slot ring to go with the other rings. This one will usually be the Hornet ring because one of my strength is the infused parries and backstabs. I have to make use of that somehow. You will notice that there's no crest selected for the Covenant. I'm making a statement with that one. There is no more Chaos Covenant in Lothric, so I will be the only representative. Now, as you can see, I've got a few other weapons that are Chaos infused that I didn't use in the video, but they're there. I have them in case I need them, and I do have a raw spike mace, which I needed for the battle with the Demon Prince in order to acquire my Seething Chaos at level 50 at +5. I also used Gnaw, which I had the faith requirement to use, which you can bleed them with that. So don't forget, it's a good trick to use if you're trying to get that spell early. Now I do have a whole bunch of unused footage, which I'm gonna compile for an epilogue video for next time. That'll be next. But yeah, till then, farewell.